I'm 38. Technically, based on the healthcare status, I maybe have about 20 years more of life because the average Gambian man doesn't celebrate 60 years old, right? There's less than 3% of our population that's older than 65. There's less than 0.5% of our population that's older than 80. So the fight that we're fighting should be for that 800,000 people, but also as we build companies, as we build institutions, we should think about how is this going to make the life of an 11-year-old better, not how it's going to make my life better. That's the biggest shift. Every decision, if you think about the 800,000 people, if I make this decision, how is it going to affect somebody who's 3 years old? Which is why, Gando, if you notice the emotional wavelength of young people, there's something that happens where I think our young people start dying while being alive when they become teenagers. If you see a Gambian boy or girl who's under 10 years old, the joy just oozes out of them.
Yeah.
They're playing, they're running around, but start seeing their face when they're 14, 15, 16. There's a sense of desperation that starts creeping in, that it's like a vacancy. They don't have any exuberance. They don't have nothing that excites them. They don't have nothing to look forward to. So every time I see those young people, I'm like, anywhere else in the world, when you're 17, 18, the world is your oyster. But just start paying attention to the energy of teenage Gambians. If it's a female, you've gone through maybe a lot of trauma that you don't have an outlet. If it's a male, you've probably gone through a lot of trauma that you don't have an outlet. And now there's nothing that you have to look forward to. Academically, if you know that only 4% are going to have a chance for university, you don't have a skill. So every day between 16, 17, 18, before you technically finish basic education, what is there for a Gambian child to look forward to? Who are the role models that they have to look forward to? So if we pay attention to the society, drug use, increasing.
Yeah.
Alcohol abuse, increasing. Crime, increasing. It's because that innocent 11-year-old boy who had all the joy and exuberance, our society's breaking him at 14, at 15, and 16. And when he's 18, 19, 20, he has nothing to look forward to. He doesn't have the skills to be employed. He doesn't have the academic criteria to go to university. So what do we expect that person to be at 30, right? So it's a deeper conversation, and I just pay attention because I always notice that most 14, 15-year-old boys and girls, there's no excitement in their face. So it's deeper than what we're doing at our level, but I think that 800,000 people, which is close to half of the population, that are still being molded to become citizens, we need to pay attention to how could we improve that cohort, because most of the older ones, we've already lost them.
Yeah. So what are some of the things you think we can do to save these 800,000 individuals?
There's a couple of things. I think any human being's experience, there's two things that influences who you're going to become.
Yeah.
Nature and nurture. Nature is in your DNA. I think if you are an African, you have the most powerful source of ancestry in the world. We're the most resilient human beings in the world. The fact that we contain as much melanin as we do is a form of resiliency. Our ancestors that we're taking as slaves, which oftentimes we don't talk about, we are the most resilient gene, right? That's nature. All of us, if you track your ancestry, there are people in your ancestral line that if you learned about who they were, you feel invisible.
Yeah.
Because their path was so much harder than our path is in this day and age where technology, infrastructure, things are actually better. That's the nature part. I think every child is going to get the nature. The nurturing part is three components to it: home, school, society.
Yeah.
Home, school, society. meaning we need to do a deprogramming and restructuring in all those 3 areas of influence to ensure that the version of an 18-year-old Gambian who's getting into the society has been impacted positively by those 3 loci of influence. I typically will add the religious infrastructure as the 4th one, but I see that as society because that is different. And if anybody who studies spirituality and religion will realize that it's like a different language, but how do you build a moral character based on the teachings that these religions provide? And how do you understand the word of God to realize that your life has purpose and meaning?